Hello, it's Dan here. Today I wanted to talk to you about stress. Some of you might have been a little bit stressed out at the moment with all this snow around, getting from A to B. I actually think it's going to be a bit of fun. We're going to get the sleds out. So anyhow, I'm going to talk about stress today. Maybe a little bit of a boring subject, but if you want to look good, feel good, lose body weight, sleep better and be happy, then we need to learn how to manage stress. Now our body manages stress and it's evolved to release hormones whenever there's this type of stress. It's called the HPA axis. Basically our brain, our hypothalamus recognizes a type of stress and then it sends messages to pituitary glands in our brain, which then they basically say hello to the adrenal glands which sit above the kidneys, and there's this feedback loop with a hormonal cascade, and it basically the hormones that get released, main one being cortisol, adrenaline, tell the body what to do in order to deal with the stress, to maintain a balance. Now we all know life's about a balance, and when it comes to stress and well-being, the HPA axis and our body is trying as best we can to maintain an even keel. The issue is that when there's too much load of stress, then our body goes out of what we call homeostasis, balance, and that's when we start to see symptoms of illness or disease. And the last video we talked about the vitality scale from 10 to 0, and there's an example when people are under lots of stress for a long period of time, their vitality drops. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the good sides of stress and the bad sides of stress, and important to understand the physiology behind that so that you can make better choices. So, in fact, there's more than one type of stress, because more often than not people think of stress as a mental thing, an emotional thing, which it is. And then there's always a good and bad side of stress. So let me go through the 6 types of stress. So number 1, I give you examples of each one, of good and bad. So number 1 is physical stress. So walking up the road, exercising, just moving around, getting out of bed, doing stuff, general stuff, surviving, is a stress on the body. And gravity obviously is pulling us down, and the more stuff that we lift and move around, the more gravitational pull, and that means that we're overloading, we're stressing our musculoskeletal system, and that's all about adaptation. So the more we stress our body, when you go to the gym or boot camp and you lift a weight, you're stressing or overloading a muscle or the system, nervous system, and then the body releases hormones in that HP axis to then deal with that stress, and then you recover and you become stronger, you adapt. Now, a physical stress would be good exercise, moving around, doing the right type of exercise in the right time. But there's always a negative flip. Not doing enough exercise, being sedentary, is a physiological stress. The body's designed to move. But overdoing it is also a stress, so it's about getting a balance. Chemical stresses. So if you're on medication, for example, or environmental toxins, pollutants, that would be an example of an overload of stress. We obviously get good chemicals from the food we eat as well. Electromagnetic stress. The sun is obviously an example of a great stress to synthesize hormones, to give us, to make things grow. But you guessed it, too much sun, electromagnetic stress, is a bad thing. It stresses out, leads to cancer. Psychic stresses, how we think. Do we have a negative bias or a positive bias? Are we following what we want to do? Are we following our dream or our goals? Too much negative thinking, stinking thinking, it releases the adrenaline, cortisol, as exactly the same as it would be if you overdid some physical exercise. The body, the key thing to take away, the body always has the same physiological reaction in the hormonal cascade, whether it's a physical stress or a mental stress. Nutrition, maintaining sugar levels, getting good nutrition, eating regular meals. Skipping breakfast, for example, and having a bit of a hypo is going to release stress hormones, which is going to have a negative effect on the body. But eating good quality food so that we can repair and maintain our sugar level, a cellular level, is a good stress. And thermal, today it's snowing, so the environment changes. Our body temperature maintained at 37 degrees. We could go walking in the snow and feel cold, but actually our hormonal system and our nervous system is doing what it can to maintain that level of 37 degrees. If it's too cold, then we go to hypothermia. If it's too hot, then we go to hyperthermia. So there's examples of how our body is always trying to maintain balance, homeostasis. So I wanted to show you this diagram. I'm hoping you can see. You've got your 6 levels of stress. The green is good, the red is bad stresses. And we have systems in our body that are all related. Woo! Sorry about that. We have systems in our body which are all interconnected. So we have a limbic and emotional system, our hormonal system, visceral system, which is all like our guts and our intestine, our organs, our musculoskeletal system, which is our bones and our ligaments and our muscles. We have a nervous system, we have an autonomic nervous system, a central nervous system, which controls everything automatically. And then we have other subsystems as well. And they all interlinked, and they, in communication with our HPA, our brain, our pituitary gland and our hypothalamus, all are doing what they can to maintain homeostasis. So, when people say they're stressed out, what they mean, and when they are physiologically stressed out, it's the accumulation and the addition of all these types of stresses over time, which then tip the balance from homeostasis to out of balance, which is when we see our vitality drop down or our kind of symptoms of disease. So if this graph here, if you can imagine you've got all your good stresses and bad stresses going into your body, into your system, and your hormones are trying to do what they can to survive, to maintain homeostasis and equilibrium. If the load is too high, we want to be here in this green zone where we call homeostasis. Green zone is where we have good well-being, good vitality. And we can handle stress for a short period of time, but the issue is chronic stress. And one of the biggest issues I find is mental and emotional stresses, because you can whack your knee or have an injury and be stressed acutely, but then the body deals with it. But that response is the same as if you have a worry or you're anxious about something. And most people can be worried or anxious all the time. And that has the same hormonal effect as it would be if you whacked your knee. So the more stress we're under, the more out of balance we are, and the more we go this way, the more symptoms of disease we get. And you can see up here, this is when we die, this is death. So down here is a happy person, happy, good well-being, lots of choices, body's functioning well. And as we move up, and our load over time accumulates, that's when we start to show signs of poor health. Being overweight, having high cholesterol, disease, cancers, you name it, any disease, any parts of dis-ease is going to be around this point. So the key to take away is that we're all under levels of stress. We all need stress in order to survive, to be strong, to kind of keep going. But you need to look at the different forms of stress, and we can do that, or I can do that. We've got a workshop coming up on the end of the 29th of Jan at Ball Place, and we're going to be talking about this stuff. What's your, what we call physiological load? What's your levels of stress? And if your levels of stresses are low, then you can make better choices around exercise. You can go high intensity. If your physiological or your stress levels are high, then we need to make better choices around our lifestyle and our diet and rest. And that's pretty much it. What we're trying to do is maintain a balance, and the choices that we make in our lifestyle and our diet will dictate how much load we're under and how happy our bodies are. How lean we are, how sleep we have. So I hope you find that interesting. 29th of Jan, we're going to be going through this stuff. We're going to find out where you're at, what you want to get out of kind of your life, if you like, and we're going to teach you all the things you need to know to try and bring your load down, to manage your stresses, to make sure you have informed choice around your diet and your lifestyle. Please share it with loved ones. I hope you see you soon. Enjoy the snow. I'm off with the sledge.